Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today I'll be giving you guys my thoughts on why I don't suggest buying a specialized Allez Sprint and just what I think would be a better bike if you were actually considering buying a specialized Allez Sprint in the first place. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. If you guys are a new viewer, I highly suggest you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's going to help the channel grow, and by it growing, I'll actually get these bikes, products in person and do thorough testing. So other than using my real world experience and talking about what I know and what I've experienced and using, online to really give you guys my opinion by showing you what I'm talking about, I really do hope with the support of you guys and of the subscribers and people that like the video every time I post, the channel is going to grow and I'm going to get these products in hand. So if you guys love cycling content, you guys like hearing about products, about opinions, just from real world riding, I highly suggest you guys do that. And a quick thank you to all my subscribers that have been liking the video and supporting the channel grow. It's just crazy. We've grown so much in such a short amount of time, and that's not only because of me putting out the content, but you guys supporting the channel, which helps me make these videos. So I'm just really appreciative. And today's actually quick note. Today's actually the best weather in Canada so far. It's going to be 19 degrees, so I'm going for a nice 3-hour ride today, so it's going to be pretty good. And stay tuned for a video talking about my bike if you guys are interested in that. But it's finally nice. The weather's warming up, which means in the not so distant future we're gonna get some outdoor riding and just more cycling content in general. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you won't be disappointed. But let's get right into this video. The title of this video is why you shouldn't buy a specialized Allez Sprint, and it's pretty simple. Is when I actually saw this bike, usually they always show the Allez Sprint during the Tour Down Under, which is a professional race in Australia, and that's usually when Specialized likes to show the new rendition of the Allez Sprint, and it's usually known as the crit machine. So it's really good for crit racing. So I am always intrigued. If you guys aren't familiar, on this channel I do talk a lot about Giant because that's the bikes I primarily ride, but I'm well versed in a bunch of bikes. I've ridden almost every single brand out there. So usually when I make these videos, I'm speaking from experience. So the Allez Sprint is an aluminum road bike. So what makes it so special is that Specialized is basically giving an aluminum frame that acts as a carbon. It's supposed to be as stiff as carbon, and how they actually do that is by a special way of welding the aluminum together. So where a traditional cheaper aluminum bike would be welded and it would be a lot heavier, Specialized is able to do these things. They're kind of like smart welds, and they're able to actually make the overall bike lighter while maintaining stiffness and rigidity, which is what you would want in a crit machine where you're doing a lot of fast accelerations. So from what I can tell, the weight is around 8.5 kilograms, and that's on a pretty small frame. So the weight is one thing that this bike isn't known for, right? It's not known for weight because it is aluminum. It's not carbon. I already talked about the welding. So like I said, they do a welding differently from what you would normally see on a cheaper aluminum bike. And other than that, I'm going to give you guys my opinion. And if you guys are familiar with Specialized, what they did on the Allez Sprint is that they used the tarmac fork, which is carbon. So they have a carbon fork, which does does actually decrease the weight while increasing the overall performance. And then it has the similar, if not the same, I'm pretty sure it's the same seat post that the Venge has. So it's kind of like a blend. If the Specialized Venge and Specialized tarmac kind of had a baby, but not really. So it's pretty good. I understand what they were going for. It's basically a budget race bike, which I did make a video on my channel about what I think the best budget race bike is, but we're going to look at it. So right off the bat, the Allez Sprint disc frame set is $1749 USD, which I find quite expensive for frame sets. Now, not going to lie, I'll be fully transparent. The first time I actually bought a race bike was off secondhand, and it was the frame. And my whole thought process was, since I already had aluminum bike with a pretty good Ultegra group set, I could just swap over my parts and kind of build it that way, which I thought kind of made sense. But what I've learned from being in the bike industry for multiple years now is, guys, usually unless you have something expensive, so this is truly what I tell people, unless you have something expensive like Di2 or E-Tap or super expensive wheels, if you usually just have moderate components, nothing higher than Ultegra mechanical, in the long run, you are usually always better in terms of value by just buying a bike brand new, because the whole thing is when bikes are manufactured brand new, to slap on all these different componentries, let's say wheels, group set, saddles, all that stuff, because it's in bulk. That's why the price is actually cheaper. So if you usually price things differently, like if you buy a frame set and then try to put all the parts on the bike that you would get on an already built bike, it's gonna be more expensive. So the only time I really can justify buying a frame set is if you have expensive componentry already laying around and you kind of don't want to buy a whole new bike. So that's the only time, but I'm telling you guys, like 9 times out of 10, buying a bike fully brand new, already stocked, is most likely your best thing. So right off the bat, usually you guys aren't going to be building a frame set unless you're, like I said, have these componentry. So let's see the value you get with the complete Allez Sprint comp disc. So this is what it looks like. From what I can tell, Specialized does release different color schemes, but let's just look at the different angles. I'm not a big fan of the gradient change. Kind of looks like a volcano, kind of like a Hawaii, vibe. But let's see the specs. So from what I can tell already, like I said, it's an aluminum frame, which is why the weight's heavy. You get a carbon fork. Okay. Now, it's supposed to be all 105 hydraulic. So Shimano 105 hydraulic. But you don't get the crank set right here as a Praxis. And they put a semi-compact 5236. Pretty standard what you would get on your level entry race bike. But this is what I find very funny, guys, is the price is $3,000 USD. For this bike. And right off the bat, I would say you're paying $3,000 for aluminum. Now, I know people are going to be potentially in the comments saying, well, this is actually a crit bike. The reason why it's aluminum is because it's stiff. So in, sprints and stuff, you don't really lose, you don't compromise anything. And, I totally, can hear that. But just from what I've experienced riding this bike and riding other bikes and level entry race bikes, is for the value, it's just not there in my opinion. So I'm going to tell you what bike you actually should buy, and this isn't sponsored, it's literally my experience. But the reason why I wouldn't buy this bike is because you could save easily, I'm going to show you, $1,000 and, easily get a $200 old single-sided power meter, which if you're racing, power is important. I'm going to keep always preaching this. Power makes you a faster cyclist. So right off the bat, you need power. And the second thing is, if you really want to upgrade, getting a nice set of rims for, maybe even secondhand, but even brand new, you can, or just lighter rims. It doesn't have to be necessarily carbon rims, but lighter rims are going to be amazing. Now, this is tubeless. Like I said, standard things. The bike is a standard, so every bike company basically has tubeless ready tires now. So there's nothing unique on this bike other than the fact that, the advertisement is pretty up there, especially with Sagan riding it for one crit, and everyone's like, well, the pros are riding it, and it's like, yeah, they are, because they're showcasing the bike. They're obviously, if it was that good, they'd be using it all season. And I think there's one Continental team that uses it for their whole season, but yet again, they're sponsored, so you have to understand that, right? So, like I said, $3,000, you're not getting anything special, and you're not even getting, you're not even getting a 105 crank, and you're paying an additional $1,000. So, from my experience on when I actually have ridden the Allez Sprint, is that, and this goes pretty much for every bike, right? Every bike is going to have its little nuances that makes it unique, that makes it a good ride. The one thing that everyone talks about, and I even experienced, is that this bike is really rigid, right? So because it's aluminum, you will feel a lot of the bumps. Even on a super smooth road, you'll feel the bumps. But, it does what a race bike does. Like I said, it has the flares of the tarmac and the Venge, more so the Venge in terms of aerodynamics. So, for crit, it's going to corner fast. It's going to, get up to speed comfortably. It's going to perform like it should. It will perform like a race bike. But just, I'm always about value. So that's me as a person and a rider, is I like value, right? If the name is associated in terms of performance, then I'm totally for it. And I'll shout out Specialized right now. I love Specialized helmets. I find them super comfortable, even though they're expensive, super comfortable. And also their shoes. I bought S-Works road shoes, and they were super expensive at the time. They were like $350, $400, but they are top of the line shoes that I absolutely love. So, I have no problem giving credit where credit's due, but then again, I don't feel like paying extra if I'm not getting that performance is worthwhile. So I just want to put that out there just so you guys know for the future how I think. And let's see what bike I would actually suggest. So you guys already got the rundown, and this is where I would save money. I would get the TCR Advanced 2-Disc Pro Compact. So if you're looking for a one-to-one bike, we can actually get the pricing cheaper. I've already talked about this on my channel because I myself ride one, but if we're looking at disc, because the Specialized Alley Sprint does not come in a rim brake version, so we got to compare it to disc. So how can we save that money? So you're roughly saving anywhere between $650, give or take, between the Alley Sprint Comp Disc and the TCR Advanced 2 Disc Pro Compact, and you're basically getting everything, but the Giant TCR Advanced 2 is a full carbon bike. That is crazy. So the only thing that's different, guys, is on this one you get a cheaper Shimano crankset right here, and that's also prevalent on the Specialized. But so like there, you know, you can't really say one's better than the other because they're roughly the same price range in terms of crankset. But the best thing I like to see is that you get a full carbon bike. So you're saving $650. You can debate and say, well, you're not getting the aerodynamics benefits that you would get on the Alley Sprint, which, like I said, guys, unless you're a top tier crit racer, most likely you wouldn't be on an aluminum bike at that point. If you needed all those like savings of second savings, you'd probably be sponsored. And I always like to preach that because a lot of times, I was taught this at a very beginner stage of my cycling career, is that if you start thinking you need more equipment, you're probably not there yet, because what one of fellow riders said on a group ride was, he's like, if you need better equipment, most likely you'll be given the equipment because you'll actually need it, and like it'll be justified, meaning that you'll be scouted or you'll make a team where you're sponsored. So I always like to push that, is that, and even if you don't, you will know yourself, right? So I always like to say that, like, based on the kilometers you ride and based on what you actually need, if you do a lot of hill climbing, you'll figure out over time, hey, I actually do need that. So there was a point where, like, when I started racing, I was like, I actually need a power meter because my training, it shouldn't just be all endurance. I should actually put some power. So, I'm just giving you guys, this is like, you got to understand the thought behind why I think a certain way. And a lot of times, I'm just going to say it really quick, a lot of times people don't think that. A lot of times people, and that's how, bikes are shown to us, which is fine, right? Like, I love bling bling bikes. I love the technology behind it, but you got to understand the thought behind it. So, having a full carbon race bike is super important. Yes, the TCR Advanced 2, this is a 2021 model, so they actually introduced some flares of aerodynamics. So you can see, like, the seat post here has a little bit flares, and they changed the tubing. So, it's very comparable in terms of having, it's not like the old TCR that didn't have, like, very significant aero flares. This has aero flares. So you get that, and then on top of that, you get a full carbon bike. So, carbon versus aluminum, big difference in terms of road vibrations. Carbon bike, significantly. I used to think it was like a big scam where my friend got a carbon bike and I had aluminum. I'm like, yeah, okay, like, it's so much better. But when I actually rode his bike, I was like, damn, yeah, it actually is way more comfortable. Then again, is it a deal breaker? Can you not do long rides? No, definitely you can. But if I had to pick one, I'm going carbon, right? So yeah, you're saving $650. Easily get a single-sided power meter, and if you really wanted to, you can get some better equipment, maybe better shoes, better helmet, better gear, and if you really want to, if you already had all that stuff, then you can get a nice set of racing wheels. So like I said, I'm a value person. Then again, also, I know I'm saying that a lot, I'd love to put these bikes head-to-head. Specialized could give me an Alley Sprint to test, I could send it back, and same with the TCR Advanced 2 in a disc version. I have a rim brake version myself that I race on, and I would love to do a head-to-head test to see which one's better. And if you guys want to see that content, it's only going to happen with you guys supporting the channel, liking the video, subscribing. That's the only way we're going to grow, and by growing and showing that there's a demand for this content, I can bring you guys that content without a problem. So if you guys could do that, if you guys want to see that content, support the channel. And I just want to end it on this for future videos. If you guys end up subscribing and liking this content, is I have a riding experience on pretty much from $15,000 custom made bikes all the way to the lowest of the low. So this is all from personal experience and just listening and being in the cycling community. So this is never going to be biased. I always challenge people. If you guys can show me a better value bike, I'm always open to hear about it. And other than that, that's why I don't suggest spending money on the Alley Sprint by Specialized. It's just because your money could be spent better elsewhere, where you can get a better value, especially from what I've ridden. I feel like having a carbon race bike is super important, especially if you do long road races. Then again, if you want to say, oh, the Alley Sprint is a crit machine, I race crits pretty much all summer, and I do it on a TCR. I've been doing it for the past 2-3 years on a TCR. So, from my experience, I'd rather have a carbon race bike that I can actually, get a power meter, get some better equipment, and if not, just save some money, right? Why would I want to spend $3,000 if I can get a better performance, a lighter bike for 2,350 USD? So that's my overall thoughts. Take it as you wish. If you guys did like it, you know what to do. And until the next one, keep on pedaling.